Hi, welcome to Hack the File. I'm Michael Lopez, and today we're going to do thinking in systems. Enjoy. All right, so thinking in systems. Here's my library, and so thinking in systems by Donella H. Meadows. This book is amazing. So um, it helps you think of things in systems, but in regards to networks or even any kind of system. And I think that I'm going to go through this book. It's not a big book, it's a small book. So I think that I'm going to go through this book um, basically each part at a time and read a little bit of it, talk about it. And if you're in cybersecurity, any side of cybersecurity, because how I see cybersecurity is, of course, there's pen testing and there's, you know, defensive and digital, and there's different sides to it, but it's all cybersecurity. So I see it as a whole system, and each part plays its part and has a function the whole system as a whole of cybersecurity. So this book is just great, and it helps you think of cybersecurity in some kind of way like that. That can be the way I just described it, or it can be any kind of way you imagine it. But I recommend everybody that gets into cybersecurity read this book. Um, this was a required reading for one of my classes that I took earlier this year, and it's one of the more interesting books because you would think that we know what systems are, right? And we do. Um, and you would think that we would think a network or cybersecurity is the system, right? So what's the reason why we should read this book? And I think you would be wrong because it breaks each piece down so you can actually look at whatever kind of system you're looking at a different view or a better view or as a whole. And yeah, so I think I would sleep on this book. Um, this book I think will make anybody that's in cybersecurity or any field, but we're talking about cybersecurity. Um, it would make anybody in cybersecurity better at cybersecurity, I think, completely, just by reading this cover to cover and stuff. So we're gonna do a little sample of this book, and like I said, I might go through, talk about it, what my thoughts are, and then go to all the parts of it. So, all right, let's go to the next part. There's other books that I guess she wrote. All right, so this book has been distilled, and like I said, we always do the notes or the about the book when I do it because it gives you an idea of what you're diving into. So this book has been distilled out of the wisdom of 30 years of system modeling and teaching carried out by dozens of creative people, most of them originally based at or influenced by MIT Systems Dynamic Group. Foremost among them is Jay Foster, the founder of the group, my particular teacher, and students who have become my teachers have been, in addition to Jay, Ed Roberts, Jack Pugh, Dennis Meadows, Hartmut Bossel, Barry Richmond, Peter Sang, okay, and what's up? Okay, what I have drawn here from the language, ideas, examples, quotes, books, and lore of large intellectual community. I express my admiration and gratitude to all its members. I also have drawn from thinkers in a variety of disciplines who, as far as I know, never used a computer to simulate a system, but who are natural system thinkers. They include Gregory Benson. Okay, now she's giving props to everybody, her teachers, mentors. Okay, so I'm going to skip some of this stuff. One of my purpose is to make you interested. Another of my purpose, the main one, is to give you basic ability to understand, to deal with complex systems, even if your formal systems training begins and ends with this book. In 1993, so she wrote this a while ago, right? All right, so the editor, from what I remember, put together all this stuff. So in 1993, Donella Meadows completed a draft of the book you now hold. The manuscript was not published at the time, but circulated informally for years. Formally for years. Dana died quite unexpectedly in 2001 before she completed this book. In the years since her death, it has become clear that her writings have continued to be useful to a wide range of readers. Dana was a scientist and writer, and one of the best communicators in the world of system modeling. In 1972, Dana was lead author of The Limits to Growth, a best selling and wide translated book. The cautions she and her fellow authors issued then are recognized today as the most accurate warnings of how unsustainable patterns could, if unchecked, wreak havoc across the globe. All right, let's skip through all this. All right. I hope this small, approachable introduction to systems and how we think about them will be a useful tool in the world that rapidly needs to shift behaviors arising from very complex systems. This is a simple book for and about a complex world. It is a book for those who want to shape a better future. Diana Wright, 2008. 2008. Okay. So, all right. If a factory is torn down, but the rationality which produced it is left standing, then that rationality will simply produce another factory. If a revolution destroys a government, but the systemic patterns of thought that produce that government are left intact, then those patterns will repeat themselves. There's so much talk about the system and so little understanding. Robert Pirsig, Zen and the Art of Motorcycle Maintenance. Introduction, the system lens. Managers are not confronted with problems that are independent from each other, but with dynamic situations that consist of complex systems of changing problems that interact with each other. I call such situations messes. Managers do not solve problems, they manage messes. Russell Ackoff, operations theorist. Early on in teachings about systems, I often bring out a slinky. In case you grew up with one, a slinky is a toy, a long, loose spring that can be made to bounce up and down, or pour back and forth from hand to hand, or walk yourself down some stairs. That's what I used to do with it. I perch the slinky on one unturned palm. With the fingers on the other hand, I grasp it from the top, partway down its coil, then I pull the bottom hand away. The lower end of the slinky drops, bounces back up again. Yo-yo up and down, suspended from my fingers above. What made the slinky bounce up and down like that? I ask students. Your hand. You took away your hand. Then say. So I picked up the box and slinky came in and the slinky came in and hold it the same way, poised on a flattened palm, held from above by the fingers of the other hand. With as much dramatic flourish as I can muster, I pull the lower hand away. Nothing happens. the box just hangs there, of course. Now, once again, what made the Slinky bounce up and down like that? The answer clearly lies within the Slinky itself. The hand that manipulates it or suppresses or releases some behavior that is latent with the structure of the spring. That is a central insight of systems theory. Once we see the relationship between structure and behavior, we can begin to understand how systems work and makes them produce poor result and what makes them produce poor results and how to shift them into better behavior patterns. As our world continues to change rapidly and become more complex, systems thinking will help us manage, adapt, and see a wide range of choices we have before us. It is a way of thinking that gives us the freedom and identity root causes of problems and see new opportunities. So, what is a system? A system is a set of things, people, cells, molecules, or whatever, interconnected in such a way that they produce their own pattern of behavior over time. The system may be buffeted, constricted, triggered, or driven by outside forces, but the system's response to these forces is characteristics of itself, and that response is seldom simple in the real world. I think we're going to skip that. Think for a moment about the implications of that idea. Okay, wait. A different system is likely to produce a different result. Think for a moment about the implications of that idea. Political leaders don't cause recessions or economic booms. Ups and downs are inherent in the structure of the market economy. Competitors rarely cause a company to lose market share. They might be there to scoop up the advantage, but the losing company creates its losses, at least in part through its own business policies. So it's basically saying that the entities of a system cause it to be different in different systems, right? So, so let's go to part one. Okay, because this is just going through its basic uh, theory. So let's go to part one. Okay, system structure and behavior. I have yet to see any problem, however complicated, when which, when looked at in the right way, did not become still more complicated. Paul Anderson, right? More than the sum of its parts. A system isn't just any collection of things. A system, and here goes, I think, the heart of the philosophy of this book. A system is an interconnected set of elements that is coherently organized in a way that achieves something. If you look at the definition closely for a minute, you can see that a system must consist of three kinds of things: elements, interconnection, and function or purpose. So let me give you a little example about what this is talking about. So let's say your your computer, okay? What does your computer comprise of? Your computer comprises of a motherboard, it's got a CPU, it's got a memory, the RAM memory, it's got a fan, it's got a heat sink, and let's say that's just those five things, okay? Your computer, just the five basic things, let's say that, right? Each of those is an element, okay? Um, that's a different element in the system. So without one, the other can't function because that's the interconnection, right? That's your interconnection. Let's say if I took away the fan, the whole system would overheat. If I left the fan in there and I took out the heat sink, your CPU would burn. Okay, so your other things would get hot and it would burn. Okay, now so let's say if I put the heat sink back in, let's say I took out the RAM, and you would have no memory. You would have no memory. let's say I put the RAM back in. Let's say I took out the um, what else did I say? The motherboard. The motherboard holds all that together. So so that computer functions, and now each function would be the purpose of the function, right? So what, just like I said, what function does the fan serve? Keeps everything cool. What function does the CPU serve? What function does the RAM serve? What function does um, the motherboard serve? So all these things serve a purpose, and they're elements in a system, in a small system, and that's how you're supposed to see it. So that's what this is talking about. Okay. Okay. For example, the elements of your digestive system, right? They're using digestive system as an example. So, for example, the elements of your digestive systems include your teeth, enzymes, stomach, and intestines. They're interrelated. They are interrelated through the physical flow of food and through an elegant set of regulating chemical signals. The function of this system is to break down food into a basic nutrients and transfer those nutrients to your bloodstream while discarding unused waste through your intestines. A food a food team a food team a football team is a system with elements such as players, the coach, the field, and the ball. And I would say the fans, right? Its interconnections are the rules of the game. Well, yeah, that's okay. So we're gonna get deeper into that here in a second. Watch. The rules of the game, strategy, the players' communication, the laws of physics that govern the motion of the ball and the players. The purpose of this team is to win games, or to have fun, or exercise, or make millions of dollars, or all of the above. A school is a system, so you can see where this is going. So it's going on and on about different systems that we already know about, right? We already know that those are systems, right? So it's just giving you a little example, like I did about the computer. I think when I did this, my example system was a computer. Um, okay, when a living creature dies, it loses its systemness. The multiple interrelations that held it together no longer function, and it dissipates, although its material remains part of a larger food web system. Some people say that an old city neighborhood where people know each other and communicate regularly is a social system, and that a new apartment block full of strangers is not. Not until the new relationships arise and a system is formed. A system is more than a sum of parts. It may exhibit adaptive, dynamic, goal seeking, self preserving, and sometimes evolutionary behavior. You can see from these examples that there is an integrity or wholeness about a system, and, and an active set of mechanisms to maintain the integrity. Systems can change, adapt, respond to events, seek goals, mend injuries, and attend to their own survival in lifelike ways. Although they may contain a constant of non living things, systems can be self organizing and often self repairing over at least some range of disruptions. There are resilient, and many of them are evolutionary. Out of one system, other completely new, never before imagined systems can arise. You think that because you understand one, that you must therefore understand two, because one and one makes two. But for but but you forget that you must also understand and. Okay, so that's part of the that's part of the system elements, right? So if you think well, one thing and this equals two, it's like algebra. You're not, what you're doing is you're comparing apples and oranges, and you got to know algebra to do that, right? But what this is that it's saying the and is, what are in relations to themselves, are they, to each other, are they, right? The elements of a system are often the easiest parts to notice, but many of them are visible, tangible things. The elements that make up a tree are roots, trunk, branches, and leaves. If you look more closely, you see specialized cells, vessels carrying fluids up and down. lore fast, and so on. The system called the university is made up of buildings, students, professors, administrators, libraries, books, computers, and I can go on and say what the things are made up of, elements, whatever. But elements do not have to be physical things. Intangibles are only elements of a system. In a university, school pride and academic prowess are two intangibles that can be very important elements of a system. Once you start listening to the elements of a system, there's almost no end to the process. And this goes back to what I was saying that, you know, we'll talk about that later, where you can go on and on and on and on, like on a football team. You could say the fans are part of that system too, and then you could say, well, the fans' parents are part of that system because they raised them, and then the fans' jobs are part of the system. But you could go too far, and then so this is what they're gonna say. They're on that. Is once you start listing the elements of a system, there's almost no end to the process, right? You can divide elements into sub-elements, and then sub-elements into sub-elements. Pretty soon you lose sight of the system. As the saying goes, you can't see the forest. You can't see the forest for the trees. So, and then they do a little how to know whether you're looking at a system or just a bunch of stuff. Okay, and then so you're gonna answer these questions and stuff. Before going too far in that direction, it's a good idea to stop dissecting out elements and to start looking for the interconnections, the relationships that hold the elements together. The interconnections in the tree system are the physical flow and chemical reactions that govern the tree's metabolic process. The signals allow one part to respond to what is happening in the other part. For example, as the leaves lose water on a sunny day, a drop in pressure in the water carrying vessels allows the roots to take in more water. Conversely, if the roots experience dry soil, the loss of water pressure signals the leaves to close their pores so as not to lose even more precious water. As the day gets shorter and the temperature zones and deciduous trees put forth chemical messages that causes nutrients to migrate out of the leaves into the trunk and roots that weaken the stem, allowing the leaves to fall. There even seems to be a message that causes some trees to make repellent chemicals or harder cell walls just for the part of the plant is attacked by insects. No one understanding of all the relationships that allow a tree to do what it does. There's no way. The lack of knowledge is not surprising. It's easier to learn about system elements than about its interconnections. In the university system, interconnections include the standards for admission, the requirements for degree, the examinations and grades, the budget and the money flow, the gossip, and the most important, the communication of knowledge that is presumably the purpose of the whole system. Okay, so I'm gonna stop right there. So I only read you like one chapter, and I can already tell your mind is just turning, right? Your gears are turning. You're thinking, "Oh man, this is really really awesome," and it is, because it now what you can do with this knowledge once you read this book all the way through, and I'll probably go through a couple of these videos, is you can take this idea, right, and you can use it to better understand networking, right, to better understand the cybersecurity system in itself. You can even try to figure out what the cybersecurity system is. We can do that right now. Let's say, okay, what is this? Cybersecurity has to be a system, okay, and let's see what holds it together. Let's see what the elements are. I would say in the system of cybersecurity, one of the elements for sure is hackers, right? People that are attacking people's assets. And then I would say business owners, corporations, small business, any kind of business owner. I would say protectors, the defenders, the cyber investigators, right? And I would say defensive, offensive, all the people that work to defend. I'm sorry, I said offensive, but to defend from the attackers, right? Because in a perfect world, if we didn't have people attacking the web or your assets, and nobody ever did, then there wouldn't be no cybersecurity. Wouldn't be no need for it. They'd probably be like, everybody's good. There might be some, but not as bad as it is now. The way that attackers, so that's definitely an element. Defensive is an element. I would say money. Maybe money is an element of the system, because if you take away the money, nobody wants to defend it. Nobody wants to get paid, and there's nobody does something for free, right? If you take away attackers, then there's nothing. There's no reason for defenders. So the functionalities would be um, defensive functionality. Connections between defensive and offensive is without the people attacking, there's no defense. And even if there's the defense, there's not going to be a lot of money pumped in that if there's nobody attacking. So they rely on each other, offense and defense. See, and that just blows your mind right there. Just think about that. And then I understand people go, oh yeah, we already knew that. Tell us something we don't know. But you did know, but you need to look at it like, how are they interconnected? And then this book goes more and more into it, and you need to realize how cybersecurity works, how it functions. Why? Not because there's all kinds of people that are like, yeah, I'm so smart, I know this and I know that, but um, to understand this philosophical concept of systems, okay, and to understand how they're interconnected and all that stuff, gives you a greater advantage uh, when plotting or planning your career path, or when let's say you're trying to figure out a problem and stuff like that, and it just lets you see things differently. So I love this book. Anyway, so that's my time. I said I was going to keep this under 30 minutes, and then so I'll do another video on this book, and like I said, I might read through the whole thing. Like I said, I think it's a pretty small book. I don't know, it might be bigger than I think, but that's it. I hope you guys enjoyed that. This is Hack the File, and I had a lot of fun going over this book. You know, my channel is for cybersecurity people that are interested in cybersecurity and all aspects of it. So my goal is to try to do pen testing, is to try to get a pen testing position. Um, but I love all aspects of cybersecurity, and that even goes for the philosophical side of it, like this, and systems thinking. And then you can take this and apply this in any kind of system and any kind of problem that you're trying to solve. So it's just a great book. So pick it up. Systems thinking on Amazon. I don't know how much I paid for it. I think it was like $40 or less. It was for school, so it wasn't something that I would actually go out and read. So I'm glad my school had me read it. And you could this is going to be the second time I've read it, and it just gets better and better. So this is the type of stuff that cybersecurity professionals, I think, need to be reading, just to broaden their horizons a little bit, broaden their mind a little bit, and dive into the stuff that I think that will help them do their job better. And when you're at work, you're a system. You're a part of a system in your job. Your boss, um, your customers, your product, what you're protecting. You're part of that system too, and you need to figure out what element you are. Whether you're a destructive element in your company or you're a good element in your company, and do they need you there to be helping the system, and or then it helps you see, maybe your team is weak, maybe maybe your boss is not doing what they're supposed to be doing, maybe they're a destructive part of the element, and then you got to move on. And I go, just get out of that system, because there are destructive systems. So all right, this is Michael Lopez again. This is Hack the File. I hope you had fun. Thank you.